So this is a complete guide on Singapore company registration, and I have tried to cover as many points as possible which are relevant under this heading. So this is a single guide or single video that you should refer to if you want to have answers to majority of your questions in relation to Singapore company registration. So the agenda for this presentation is basically we will go through business structure options, company registration requirements, what is a nominee director service, what is KYC or CDD, what documents are required for incorporation of the company, what the typical steps looks like, which documents you will receive after incorporation, opening bank account after the company is incorporated, some other important registration considerations like CPF, GST, etc., minimum compliance that every company must do, and options in case of a company closure. In addition to that, I am also going to address some of the frequently asked questions which I have listed on these two slides. I will not go through that right now, but let's start with the presentation first then. So the first question comes to the mind is what entity types are available for registration either by residents or by local. So even before registering your business, you are thinking whether it should be sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership, or the private limited company. So if you are a Singapore resident, that means you are a Singapore citizen or Singapore permanent resident, then in that circumstances, you can register a sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership, and actually company also. But if you are a foreigner, then the entity type that is available for Singapore residents as well as foreigners is company only. That means residents can incorporate or register any of this business entity type, whereas foreigners are allowed only to register a company. Company also becomes one of the most flexible, universally accepted solution. So in case you want to distribute your shareholding to different people, that is not possible in partnership and sole proprietorship. But in company, it is possible. Segregation of management and ownership can be done in company effectively. So company as a entity type has some benefits, and obviously it is slightly costly also to maintain because of its benefits. And moreover, it is the structure which is available for both local as well as foreigners. So moving on to the next slide then, what are the requirements to register a company in Singapore? So the requirements are as follows. You need to have a minimum one shareholder. He can be either resident or can be foreigner. Singapore allows 100% foreign shareholding, so it's not a problem. You need to have minimum one locally resident director. Any number of additional local or foreign directors are okay, but minimum one local resident director is necessary. You need to have company secretary who is also locally resident. One key point to note here, if company has a single director, then he cannot be the secretary of the company. And you need a registered address for your company, which cannot be a post office box address. So you also need minimum $1 share capital. And obviously, since you have one shareholder, this minimum capital should not be a problem. Now, if you are a Singapore resident, most of these requirements are not difficult to satisfy. You will be able to get a shareholder. You will be the shareholder. You will be the local resident director. We provide company secretary, maybe address, and a company can be incorporated. However, foreigners has a problem. Foreign promoters who intend to register a company in Singapore, they normally don't have anybody to act as a local resident director of the company. So this is where the concept of nominee director comes into picture. And let's have a look on nominee director in more detail. So for the foreign promoters who do not have anybody to act as a local director of their company, we provide nominee director as a business service. So most of the CSPs, that is corporate secretarial provider companies in Singapore, will provide this as a service for a fee, and fee typically range between 1800 to 2400 Singapore dollars per year. And some companies may, in addition to this, take a deposit of approximately 2000 Singapore dollars. So in this service, we will arrange a local person, either Singapore citizen or a Singapore permanent resident, to act as a local director of the company so that you can satisfy and comply with this requirement and incorporate your company. So now if you are a foreigner, you have two options when it comes to incorporation of the company in Singapore. Obviously for local incorporation, there is not an issue. You can get a nominee director on an ongoing basis, permanent basis, and continue running your company from overseas. So if you do not have any plans to relocate to Singapore, then nominee director can continue to act as a nominee director for a longer period of time. Obviously, annual fees will be applicable and you can continue running your company from your home country. If you have plans to relocate to Singapore, you can get a temporary nominee director, then apply for employment pass, and once the employment pass is approved, you can relocate to Singapore, become the local director of your company, and nominee director in that case will exit. So just to give you pictorial example of this, let's presume that there are two foreigners who have incorporated a company in Singapore. So they are shareholders as well as directors of the company. From our side, we provide a local resident director, what we call nominee director, and we also provide a company secretary. Now in this arrangement, the local resident director continue operating as a director for an indefinite basis, and the foreign promoters continue residing in their home country. And they can manage their operations remotely, and the company can be operational for as much time as required. So this is a nominee director on an ongoing basis. Now in contrast to this, the nominee director with employment pass package will have similar situation at the beginning. So again, there are two promoters. They are also the directors of the company. We provide a local resident director called nominee director and a secretary. But then after that, employment pass is filed for one of the director. So let's suppose we file it for the director, and once approved, he relocates to Singapore and becomes the local director of the company. And then the nominee director that we provided exit from your company. So now you don't need nominee service anymore, and you can be locally residing and managing your company and also be the local resident director of the company. So this process needs to be finished. So we offer the package for both these scenarios, and pricing is also same. So one thing to note here is nominee director is still required in this case for a limited period of time, because after the company is incorporated, we are going to file the employment pass, then you are going to shift to Singapore, and then you are going to update your details in the ACRA system to be the main director of the company, and then the nominee is going to exit. Now, having understood the options of company formation and the requirement, the next question comes to the mind is what documents are required. And before we understand what documents are required, we need to understand one more concept that is called as KYC or CDD. So KYC stands for Know Your Client, or CDD stands for Customer Due Diligence. I think you will be aware of these terms, as in your home country also these terms are used, maybe at the time of opening up of the bank account, or maybe at the time of buying a mobile service. So basically the law requires us to know and have enough details about the company and promoters who are behind that company. So if we are incorporating, we are mandatorily required to collect some information, and it is directed by ACRA regulations as to what we should collect. So every company secretary provider in Singapore has to create their own policy and follow it diligently. So based on this KYC and CDD requirements, let's have a look at what documents we need to get from you. So if you are a Singapore resident, in that circumstances, we will need your NRIC copy. We will also need to verify the original NRIC in our office. And address proof is required if the address on your NRIC is not current. Otherwise, NRIC is enough. And this information will be required for every director and shareholder of the company. If you are on employment pass, then in that circumstances, we will need the copy of your employment pass and a proof of address, because employment passes typically do not have proof of address. So this information will be required from you. And again, we will at some point of time like to verify the original documents. In every case, we will also need you to fill up a customer due diligence form, which basically captures various details about you and the company and what your company will be doing, what activities it will be carrying out, and maybe how much financial projections you have, like how much turnover it will make and what kind of transactions it will carry out throughout its existence. So the CDD form needs to be filled only once if there are 2 or 3 shareholders, but 2 or 3 shareholders details needs to be submitted for every person. If you are a foreigner and you are an individual taking up shareholding in your name and be the director of the company, then in that case we need a copy of your passport, a proof of residential address. So proof of address can be your latest mobile bill, utility bill, anything that is issued by some third party showing your address and your name is required. And maybe some second identity document, which can be your driver's license, or in case of Indians it can be Aadhaar card. In case of Malaysians it can be Malaysian identity card, and so on. So these documents will be required, and again we will require the CDD form to be filled up. If your company as a corporate shareholder, that means the shareholding is going to be taken by the corporate entity, another corporate entity, maybe your company in your home country, then things get slightly complicated. In that circumstances, we require company registration certificate copy from home country, company extract details showing the details of directors and shareholders. Then we need board resolution confirming decision to incorporate company in Singapore. And we also need chart showing UBO, ultimate beneficial owners of the company, which shows majority shareholders or directors with the decision making power. So something similar to this. And for each of the director, each of the shareholder, or each of the UBO, we need same documents like passport copy, proof of address, and second identity documentation. So in case of corporate, we cannot wait at the corporate ownership and only obtain the details of that company, but we need to trace back who are the people behind that company. In case any doubts, I have a separate video on this topic explaining it in detail. So now, having seen this, the next logical question is what are the steps involved in company incorporation? And we first take a case of remote incorporation without a visit. So we are in the middle of COVID situation now and travel has completely stopped. So we are doing many remote incorporation currently, and let's have a look on the steps. So when you first contact us, you will typically have an email communication with our staff. Maybe you will have a telephone call. You will have some question, doubts. Maybe we will have a Zoom call. And this engagement will last for few days depending upon how urgent you are in incorporation. Once these doubts are clarified, the next stage is to provide the details. And this is where the passport copies, proof of address, second ID documentation, KYC, etc. you will be providing to us. We have just now seen the list of documents required. So both these steps generally will take 2 to 3 days. And once we have received the documents, we will have a video conference with you, which each of the director and shareholder, where we will like to see you, talk to you, understand your business plan, and maybe verify the documents like passport, proof of address, and KYC form, etc. Once the video conferencing is done, we will prepare the documents for signing, and we will send those documents for electronic signing through electronic signing software. Once that is completed, the actual incorporation can be done, and the documents will be sent to you after the incorporation. So both the steps generally will take 1 day each. And after the company is incorporated, we will introduce you to the bank, and the details will be passed on to the bank representative for opening the bank account. So if you really see this timeline from step 1 to step 6, it is roughly 7 days or so timeline. So actually company can be incorporated very fast, but as you see there is a lot of communication, collection of data, video conferencing, and there are few steps which will definitely take some time in this entire process. In case you are visiting Singapore and you are incorporating the company during your visit, then the steps involved are pretty much same. There will be engagement first and you will provide the details. And then all the subsequent steps like verification of identity document, signing of the documents, incorporation and sending of those incorporated documents to you, and physical meeting with the bank representative will happen during your visit. And we typically suggest you to have at least 3 days visit in Singapore during working days. So don't count Saturday and Sunday in that 3 days visit. Plan it from Monday to Friday, and in that 3 days visit all these activities will be done. So the next logical question then is, what documents you will receive after the company is incorporated? Few years back we used to provide a complete kit to our clients, which will typically include share certificate, a seal, a metal seal that you see here, stamps, registers, a complete company incorporation kit, and this is what the practice. However, over the years we have completely moved to an electronic platform, and so has ACRA, Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority of Singapore, also has moved to a electronic platform. So nowadays the documents those are received after the incorporation are quite limited actually. So the first thing you will receive is something called as BIS file. So BIS file is an official document issued by the Company Regulation Authority of Singapore. So this is the document everybody will ask you in case you have to deal with any company. They might even buy it directly from ACRA system. And this BIS file actually shows the details of company, its incorporation date, type of company, activities, capital, registered address, and the directors and shareholders of the company. The second document that you will receive is called as Constitution of the company. So this is also similar to Memorandum and Articles of Association, and this is also used at the time of many business contracts or opening up of the bank account. So these are the two documents that you will always need when doing any transaction for your Singapore entity. In addition to this, we will also get a stamp prepared for your company, and we will keep it in our office, because sometimes if the documents are received for your company at our office address, we need to stamp it with the company stamp. There is also practice to get a e-certificate of incorporation, which looks like this. It is basically an email sent by ACRA BIS file system to the person who incorporated the company, saying that such and such company was incorporated under the Companies Act. If you want a hard copy certificate which looks somewhat like this, which is actually printed and signed by ACRA officer, then in that circumstances that needs to be ordered specifically. It is not given by default. So in summary, the two documents that you will receive are BIS file and a Memorandum and Articles of Association of the company. Now one question sometimes people ask is how to independently verify that the company is registered. So you might be interacting with your corporate secretarial provider, and you might be entirely interacting remotely, and in that circumstances you might want to verify these details independently. So I will show you how. So in the internet browser, search for ACRA BIS file, and on the ACRA BIS file website, go to buy information and click on BIS profile, business profile. Then enter the name of your company. So I'm just going to enter the name of a company which I incorporated 2-3 days back and search. System will take some time, but that's okay. So now the results are available, and you can see that company has been incorporated, and a UN number of the company and the address is given. If you want, you can go for some additional information by clicking on other information and scroll down and select last 1 year for transaction range. And here you can notice that first application for new company name was filed by this person, and then incorporation of local company was constituted on this date by same person. So this is the way you can verify the details as to who actually passed the transaction and whether the company is available as a record in Singapore government system or not. So moving on to the next slide, then the next most important topic comes is opening up of the bank account. Because you have now incorporated the company, you have the documents, but without bank account, your company doesn't really have much meaning, because you should be able to transact, you should be able to receive remittances for sale, or you should be able to pay for expenses. And bank account becomes the next important point. So bank also actually follows a very similar process to what we follow for company incorporation. So you are technically going to go through the same process again, but this time for bank account opening. So the document that bank will typically ask is proof of address and passport copy of all the directors and shareholders of the company. And if there is a corporate shareholding, they will ask similar document and chart, what I have shown few slides back. And in addition to that, they will need BIS file and a constitution, which we can directly provide to the bank when we introduce the bank representative. And bank will also have their own KYC form, which is also again similar to our KYC form. So you will have to fill up that form, take all these documents and start the process. Now let's have a look what logical steps are there. And these are also again very similar to what are required in case of company incorporation. So you will provide the details like passport copy, proof of address, KYC form. Then bank representative will do a video conferencing, and this is currently during the COVID period only. I am not sure whether after COVID is over, whether they will continue remote bank account setup, because generally Singapore banks require personal visit of main directors for bank account opening. But currently it is available without visit. So video conferencing will happen. Then they will prepare document and send it to you for signing. Once signed, these documents will be internally submitted for approval and bank's internal process will continue. So this can take few days. And once the account is open, all these documents and the bank token will be dispatched to the company's address, which is our provided address in Singapore. We will collect all this and we will courier it to you in your home country, which can take another 6 to 8 days. So if you really see the timeline, this timeline is slightly longer, and here you are looking at around 4 to 5 weeks if it is remotely done, and minimum 3 weeks if it is done with a physical visit. So if you decide to visit physically in Singapore for the bank account opening, then step 2 and step 3 will be combined, and the bank representative will actually meet you, get all the documents signed, explain you everything, and then submit it for internal approval. So the process will be slightly faster. So now your company's incorporated, bank account is also done, and there are some other important matters now which you should pay attention to. Now these are not required for every company in Singapore, but it depends upon case to case or circumstances. So the first thing to think about is a central number. If you are going to be involved in import and export trade, and if the goods are going to cross Singapore border and going to enter into Singapore, then in that circumstances you need to get a central number so as to process the trade shipments. Every logistics provider will ask you your central number, and that number can be applied. It is a one-time process and it can be applied after the company is incorporated. The next point that you need to think about is a CPF registration if you are going to employ people in Singapore. If you are employing any Singaporean or locally resident person, you will need to do the CPF registration. You have to withhold certain part of salary of that employee on account of provident fund, and you have to contribute some additional percentage on top of the salary, and together this amount you need to put it into CPF account of that employee. CPF stands for something like a provident fund, superannuation, 401k plan in USA, or any kind of retirement scheme that your country might have. So this is very similar to that. The next thing that you need to consider is a GST registration. Now GST registration is not mandatory for every company unless they are crossing a turnover of 1 million Singapore dollars in Singapore. So if your company is small, most of the newly incorporated companies will not have a compulsion to register for GST. But you might decide to still register voluntarily in case you want to take the set-off back from the government, then you need to plan for this. And the last thing is if any business licenses are required for your business. The majority of the businesses do not require license in Singapore. They can be started immediately after the company is incorporated. However, certain sectors are regulated, and if you are operating in one of those sectors, then business license is compulsory. So in that circumstances, you will have to proceed to obtain that license, and you cannot start operations unless the license is approved. Some of the examples of these sectors are employment agency work, travel agency work, financial advisory services, telecommunication services, and so on. Now we will have a look on minimum compliance to do for every Singapore company. So every Singapore company is required to maintain the books of accounts. So you will have to maintain the ledger bank book, which typically looks like this. And you can have a lot of options in that sense, because nowadays there are a lot of cloud-based accounting softwares which you can use. And if you are stationed in foreign country, you can actually maintain this using your current accounting resources also, because many new companies tend to have limited accounting transactions and they can be easily maintained by your existing staff in your home country. That's not a problem. The next thing that you have to ensure that after the accounting year is over, you have to prepare financial statements. So financial statements and general ledger are slightly different. So financial statement, I will show you an example. So what you see here is a sample financial statement which is created from the ledger accounts, but it has all the statements, directors details, audit committee, then directors equity interest, and then it has balance sheet. They have a balance sheet for group and a company, and then consolidated profit and loss account, and there will be lot of notes that will follow after this. So this is what I am referring to is a financial statement. So you will need to prepare the financial statement, and then once this is prepared, there are two separate compliances and filing that needs to be done. The first one is you will have to conduct an annual general meeting within 6 months from the end of the financial year. And within 30 days after the AGM is conducted, you will have to file annual return with ACRA. And the second thing you have to ensure is file ECI, estimated chargeable income, within 3 months after the end of financial year. And you have to file tax return by December 15 of the assessment year. So the first compliance comes under Companies Act, which is done with ACRA. And the second compliance comes under Income Tax Act, which is done with Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore. Now, in addition to that, there can be other compliance matters, especially if you have taken a business license, or there can be something on account of GST. But this is what I am showing you is the minimum, bare minimum compliance every company has to do. So one interesting point to note that there is no compliance filing in the first year of operations of the company. It all starts after the first accounting year is over. So first year you will normally not file anything. Now we come to the last part of the presentation, and the question is, if after doing all this, if you have incorporated the company but your plans have not really worked out, so your company is not going anywhere, it is pretty much dormant, inactive, what you can do? So in that circumstances, you don't need to continue incurring expenses on your company. You can proceed for the closure, and there are two options. The first option is called as strike off, which is less costly and easier to do, but it can be done only when company is in a solvent position, meaning company does not have any debts or liabilities which it cannot pay. Then only it can go for strike off. The other option, which is a costly, which is a complicated, is winding up of the company, and this is done when company is in an insolvent position. It means it has more liabilities than its asset, and a liquidator needs to be appointed to proportionately distribute the proceeds realized from assets to the creditors. So if you satisfy these conditions, that is, there are no debts or liabilities of the company, it has disposed of all its assets, it has cancelled all its registrations and licenses, there are no legal proceedings, and majority of directors and shareholders consent to the striking off, then in that circumstances, we can send the company for closure by the strike-off route. The cost is typically 1000 Singapore dollars plus any additional charges for the nominee, secretary and address service that you might use for the strike-off duration. So strike-off duration, that is sending company for strike-off to the time when it is actually closed, is roughly 6 months. So there are processes in between, those are carried off by the government by publishing it in the official gazette, letting all people know that this company is going for strike off. So if you have any objections, you can raise those. So now I am going to handle some of the frequently asked questions. So the first question is, can 100% shareholding be with the foreigner? So the answer is yes. Singapore does not have any limitation as to whether specific percentage of shareholding should be with local people. The requirement is only to have a local director. So 100% shareholding can be with you as a foreigner. The second question is single director shareholder company allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Single person company where the same person is director and shareholder is permitted under the law. Do I need a local shareholder or give any shareholding to the nominee director? The answer is no, you don't need any local shareholder and you don't need to give any shareholding to the nominee director. 100% shareholding can be with you. Is Singapore a tax-free country? No, Singapore is not a tax-free country. The corporate tax rate is 17% and it is levied on the worldwide income of the Singapore company. However, there are some schemes for exemptions and partial tax exemptions for all existing as well as newly incorporated companies. So newly incorporated companies, typically the effective tax rate may come down to as low as 6 or 7% depending upon various factors. The next question is a company secretary must and can a foreigner be the company secretary? The company secretary is a must. As per the law, it needs to be appointed within 6 months from the incorporation of the company, and the company secretary must be a locally resident person. You cannot appoint a foreigner as a secretary of the company. The next point which is important is which visa to use after incorporation to visit Singapore. So many people think that after incorporation they need to take employment pass to visit Singapore. That is not the purpose of employment pass. Employment pass is for employment with a Singapore company. And what that means is after employment pass, you will relocate to Singapore and work for the company on a full-time basis. If your objective is to look for a visa to visit Singapore after incorporation for occasional business visits, for example, you want to come and meet potential clients and showcase them your product, then in that case you can use a short-term visit visa which has a dual purpose, which can be used for personal visits like relatives and friends, and it can also be used for business purpose. So that is the visa you should use. So what information is publicly available about a Singapore company? So the name of the company, its registration number, its address, information about its directors and information of its shareholders is publicly available in Singapore for the company registered in Singapore. That means anybody can buy the information for $5 for a specific company and can see the directors and shareholders of the company. So the next logical question comes, is there any option if I don't want to appear in the public records? So there are ways to control this, and if you are interested, you can get in touch with us, whereby we can look at your specific case and we will provide you a solution. But basically there are some options if you don't want your name to appear as a shareholder of the company. This is the end of the company incorporation in Singapore guide, and I hope all the topics are clear to you. In case you have any questions, you can always get back to us on our contact details.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.